Using many different practical examples, we're going to see how can we use the XLOOKUP function in Excel with all the arguments, and also how can we replace the Vlookup and also the Hlookup using the XLOOKUP function. And as we all know, the XLOOKUP function is a newer function. That way it has a lot of new tools that we can use. Let's start with the first example on how can we replace the Vlookup function using the XLOOKUP function. And then we can move on and use a new tool that we have within the XLOOKUP. That is, if the thing that we are looking for doesn't exist, we can customize the arrow instead of get the standard one. And then the third example that we're going to see is how can we replace the Hlookup using the XLOOKUP function. We're also going to see the flaws of the Vlookup function and the Hlookup function. In the final example, we can see how can we use the wildcards within the XLOOKUP function. Or in other words, let's say the thing that we are looking for is just a portion of the actual value. For example, Wilson is just a name that is in between two other names that I have within the same cell, as we can see here. That way, how can I tell the XLOOKUP function in Excel to look up for a portion of a text and bring back the correspondent value correctly? So this is what we're going to see in today's video. In this first example, let's understand how the XLOOKUP function can replace the Vlookup function. And first of all, let's understand what I have as the data set. To the left, I have a list of products and their costs. And to the right, I have basically a sales report with informations such as the date, the product, the quantity, the cost per unit, the price per unit, and also the profit. And as you can see, all the cells within the cost column are blank. So I need to input from the product the correspondent cost. So let's say I have here apple. I can take in the list and look up for this specific fruit that is apple, and then take the cost, $1, input here, 1, and then enter, and that's it. That way I can have the cost per unit. I already had the price, and now I have the correct profit. But imagine if I do it row by row, it's going to take me a long time to complete this task. So we can use here maybe the Vlookup function or the XLOOKUP function. So let's see, how can I use the XLOOKUP function over the Vlookup, and why in this particular situation the Vlookup function is not going to work? Because if you take a look in my lookup range, let's say this is my lookup range, is the range where I want to look up for the product and then bring it back as result the corresponding cost. When we are using the Vlookup function, let's say, the Vlookup function works using the lookup range as the reference, and then it can take everything that is to the right of this range to bring it back as result. But as we can see here, there is nothing to the right. The thing that I need to bring back is to the left. So this is the problem. The Vlookup function is not going to work using this example right here. So this is why I need to use the XLOOKUP function in Excel, because as the Vlookup function can only bring the things that are to the right of our reference, the XLOOKUP function can do both, can bring everything that is to the left and also everything that is to the right. So it's a more complete function, let's say. So this is why it's important to know how to use both Vlookup function and also the XLOOKUP function, because the XLOOKUP function can, let's say, do more things than the Vlookup function can do. Equal sign and then XLOOKUP function. Let's double click here, 1, 2. The thing that I want to look for is the lookup value, and my lookup value is first the apple, and then banana, and then orange, and on and on. But let's start with the first cell, comma. Now we go to the second argument where I have the lookup array. My lookup array can be either a specific range like this, where I have the products, or I can click over the letter B to select the entire column. No problem at all. Comma. Now my last argument is the return array. And my return array can be again either a specific range like this, but as we did select before, an entire column, we also need to match this range. So I need to select the entire column like this, column A. And that's it. I can press enter, and yeah, we're done. Now I have the corresponding cost for my first product. And if I click in the bottom right corner of the cell, hold and drag down, I'm done. That way I can have the same function for all the rows that I have. And that's it. So this is how we can use the XLOOKUP function in Excel over the Vlookup function. And we also saw here why the Vlookup function is not going to work in this specific situation. Now the second example that I want to show is using again the XLOOKUP function, but this time we're going to use one more argument within the XLOOKUP function. That is the if not found. And why should I use this argument now? it's an optional argument, such as the match mode and also the search mode. And I'm gonna use the if not found argument because, as you can see here, there is one specific product, that is the peach, that is being highlighted for me within my sales report. And this is being highlighted because, as you can see in the products list, there is no such product. There's no peach in this list. So this is why this specific product is being highlighted for me with this yellowish color. So let's say if I use the Vlookup function in Excel and I look for the product called peach, it would return for me an error because there is no such product. But instead of get an error as result, we can customize the error. And if we get an error, we can input something else. So let's say equal sign XLOOKUP function, lookup value, and of course, using the Vlookup function, we can do the same, not just with the Vlookup function, but we can combine two different functions, the if arrow and also the Vlookup function. That way, we need to use two different functions to match the XLOOKUP function in this particular mode. Let's say the lookup value is the peach, comma, the lookup array is going to be the column B, comma, and my return array is going to be the column A. Yeah, that's it. And if I press enter, as we can see, we got an error. And okay, it's correct because there is no such product. But instead of get an error in my sales report, because maybe it's not a good idea, let's double click here, 1, 2. And any time that we have an error, we can change. If not found, we can input something else. So let's say open quotations and then product not found. I think it's the best way to describe it. And then close quotations, close parentheses, and then enter. Now, whenever we got an error, the function will automatically update the error to this customized message that we did. Now, let's double click in the bottom right corner of the cell 1, 2 to make sure we can copy down this formula, and we're done. And this is how we can use the first optional argument within the XLOOKUP function. Now, the third argument that we have is how can we replace the Hlookup function in Excel with the XLOOKUP function? As we saw before, the Vlookup function in Excel can only take as result something that is to the right of our lookup reference. And the Hlookup function in Excel works in a similar way. If we have a range that is, let's say, look like this, the Hlookup function can only bring back as result the values that are underneath my reference. If you want to bring back something that is above the reference, you cannot do it. So this is why it's important to know how to use, again, the XLOOKUP function. Here, basically, I have the students' names within the first row. And as the second row, I have the ID. And here down below, I have another table with a different information, basically the grade of each one of those students. But as you can see here, I only got the ID, and I need to input the name to the correspondent ID. How can I do it? Using the Hlookup function. Maybe, but it depends on the reference that I have. And as we can see here, if I want to use let's say the ID as my reference, my ID is in the second row. What is the information that I need to bring back as result? The name. What is the name within my first table? It's above the reference, not underneath it. So this is why I can't use the Hlookup function here. It's not gonna work. So let's use the equal sign, the XLOOKUP function. 1, 2 to select. The lookup value is the ID that is to the left, comma. Now my lookup array is going to be, let's say, the second row where I have the IDs, comma. Now my return array is going to be the first row where I have the student names. And that's it. If I press enter, I'm done. So this ID corresponds to the Jacob name. So that's it. So this is how we can use the XLOOKUP function to replace the Hlookup function in Excel. And in this particular situation here, if I click in the bottom right corner, hold and drag down, maybe I get some issues, as you can see here, because whenever we click, hold and drag down a function in Excel, all the references, it can be the lookup value is gonna also be moved down, but all the other references are also gonna be moved down. And maybe we have an issue when we are talking about the return array and also the lookup array. We need to fix those references. And how can we do it? Using the F4 key. So let's go back to the first cell where we did the XLOOKUP function 1, 2. And I want to select first the lookup array. Just select all the values that we have within the lookup array. And now I want to press the F4 key. Hit the F4 key to lock this reference. And as you can see, we already did it because there is a dollar sign before the number 2 and also a dollar sign before again the number 2. I want to select now the return array and hit the F4 key, and that's it. We're done. Enter. Now in the bottom right corner of the cell again, click, hold, and drag down. So this is how we can use the XLOOKUP function over the Hlookup function in Excel, and also how can we use the F4 key to lock a reference in Excel. Now the last example that I want to show you here is about the two last arguments that are the match mode and also the search mode. We can start with the match mode, where we can use the wildcards, or in other words, in a practical way, I have a list of the customers with the names and also the last purchase, the value. Let's say I don't remember exactly what is the name of a specific customer, but I remember, in fact, the name or the surname, let's say the last name, or even I have within a cell a name that is much larger than the one that I have here, with, let's say, 10 different names. It doesn't matter. So I can input one name right here. It can be the first name, the middle name, or the last name, doesn't matter. So as the name of the customer, let's say I don't know the first name, but I know indeed the surname, that is Brown. Enter. And then I want to know what is the last purchase of this specific customer. I can use the equal sign, the XLOOKUP function to help me. Once the lookup value is going to be the customer name, that is this name right here, but of course, Brown isn't a name exactly, but it's a surname, okay? So, but let's stick with it. And then comma, the lookup array is going to be where I have the names, comma, and the return array is going to be where I have the last purchase. And that's it. Now let me press enter. As we can see, of course, we got an error in Excel. But now it's time to make some change within the XLOOKUP function. As the Brown is the, let's say, the surname, and the surname most of the times is the last word of the name. So let's say the name has 3 parts. The surname is the last one, okay? So let's consider the surname is the last part of the name. And then we can also consider this particular text that I input here is something that is in the middle. So I have 4 different words within the cell. Let's say Brown is a word that is in the middle, or here in the beginning, or here in the final part of the text, or also something that is actually the first thing of the cell. Doesn't matter. I'm going to show you all those different manners to solve this problem. But let's consider first the Brown is the last thing that I have. I need to input before the Brown an asterisk to tell the XLOOKUP function, hey, Brown is the last thing that I'm looking for. The asterisk tells the XLOOKUP function that before this word, there is something else before this word. So within this formula, 1, 2, as we can see here, we have the cell G6 that corresponds to the surname. Before it, I want to append an asterisk, but it's very important to quote unquote the asterisk. So open quotations and then asterisk and then close quotations. Now, as you can see, all the things, all the references that were being highlighted for me, now they are not. So this is why we are missing something. We need to append the asterisk with the lookup value reference. And to do it, I'm going to use an ampersand, like this. And yeah, we almost done. If I press enter, again, we're going to have an error. But this time I can double click again and make another change. That is to use the match mode option. Let me read it off the last parenthesis and then comma. Now I'm in the first optional argument, but I do not want to use the if not found argument. So we're going to skip it, comma. Now, okay, I'm in the match mode and this is what I want to use. And as we know, I want to use the wildcard character match. Double click here, 1, 2, and yeah, that's it. Close parenthesis and then enter. Now I think it's working. So the customer Brown, the last purchase is equal to 245. I don't know if it's correct, so let's manually check here. Oh, I think maybe it's Olivia Brown, 245. Yeah, that's it, it's correct. So the values are matching. Yeah, perfect, that's it. So let's make another change here. Instead of using Brown, I want to use Smith. Enter. As you can see, the last purchase is 218. And okay, Emily Smith, 218. But if you take a look here in this list, in the bottom part of the list, there is another person with the same surname. Let's take a look here. Okay, I don't know if there is a person, but let's make it happen. So Grace, I want to change to Smith. Enter. And as you can see, the value that Grace expand is different than the Emily one. Okay, so the value that I have here in the last purchase is matching the first name that I have. But if I want to change the search mode, instead of start from the first row to the last one, I want to do the opposite. Start from the last row or from the bottom up to the top. How can I do it? Double click here, 1, 2, And now let's use the last argument that we have, comma, the sort mode. Instead of sort first to last, I want to sort last to first. 1, 2, and then enter. As we can see, okay, now we have a different value, 149. And this value corresponds to the last Smith surname that we have. Now it's working. And as I said before, we all know that the surname, most of the times, is the last part of a name. But let's say Smith is the middle portion of something. There is something before it, there is something after it. How can I explain it to the XLOOKUP function? Let's make it happen. Let's say maybe this person here, Wilson, is the last surname, okay? So if I input here, Wilson, and then enter, as you can see, 226 is the same value that I have. Yeah, it's matching. But now, instead of using Wilson, that is something that is in the last portion of the name, double click, 1, 2, let's make it in the middle name. Now I have Smith as the last name, enter. That way I'm gonna have an arrow within the XLOOKUP function. And to solve this problem, double click here, 1, 2, want to append again an asterisk after this word, because that way I'm gonna tell the XLOOKUP function, I have the word that I'm looking for. We already did the asterisk before it, so the XLOOKUP function knows it can have something before it, and to tell the XLOOKUP that this thing can have something after, we need to append another asterisk. So let's input here an ampersand and then open quotations, asterisk, close quotations. Okay, now it's gonna work. Enter, and yeah, that's it. So this is how we can use the XLOOKUP function in Excel with the wildcards. And also, this is how we can use, indeed, the XLOOKUP function with all the arguments that it has. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you have any questions or any suggestions to the next videos, let me know. Comment down below, and I see you tomorrow, as every day has a new video. I see you there.